Telling us what he's learned being an inventor.
All right, my name is Steve Chappell, and so I'm really into habits because I understand what they do for people. I've been studying habits. My invention of sort is kind of a habit. It's basically getting people to form a habit, and so this is what my talk's basically about. I basically went through, I looked through all sorts of stuff. I read a bunch of business books, self-help books, psychology books, physics books, you name it, I read it all. So I try to find the best habits. Now, habits are very powerful. If you think of any good advice, it all comes down to basically habits. Habits shape your life, all right? Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. It's the things you do every day that makes a difference. If you want to be excellent, you just have to have excellent habits. Successful people all share the same similar habits, and I picked some of my favorites out for you today. So, why do we have habits? Habits is our brain's shortcut to dealing with life. If we had to come up with a new way to pick up a glass or fold your laundry, no matter what it is, our brain would go insane. We couldn't hold the processes. We make habits it's basically like an energy saving device that we come up with, right? Our habits make our life easier. We can't help but have habits. It's impossible not to. But the problem is forming good habits can be challenging, and forming bad habits can be easy. But if you know how to if you know how habits work, then it's a lot easier of a process. All right, so one of the best books on habits is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's a good overall summary of habits. I recommend it. I got a couple books in here, but it's a good first start. But in here, he described the habit loop, right? Well, you got three things. You got the cue, the routine, and then the reward. Each one happens at every time, and you need to understand. If you want to examine each habit, you have to understand what the cue, the routine, and the reward is, right? So first is the cue. The cue could be a smell, it could be a place, it could be a time. It's whatever the thing that cues up the reward, the routine, right? So you're going to walk in your house, the first thing you do is you hang your keys up. So your cue is opening your front door. And the next step is then you start the routine. The routine is basically the thing that goes in autopilot. It's the thing that you don't have to think about. It's the steps that you know that you need to get done to complete that routine. And it could be physical or emotional. The next thing is the reward. We always get a reward from it, even though it's maybe just things look organized at the end, or the feeling that you get. You always do something for some type of reward. So when you examine your habits, you need to look at the cues, the routines, and the rewards. Because if you want to change them, you need to understand how each one of those affect each other. So if you want to start a new habit, you have to pick out a cue. And if you have a habit that you have a hard time forming, then work on the reward. Your body will naturally respond to it. Right? So how many days does it take to form a habit? 21? No, 21 came from a book called Cyber-Cybernetics, and it's actually 66 days. Now, 66 days is the average amount of time. Sometimes it can be as low as 18. Other times it's 254. It really depends on what type of habit it is, how often you do it, and how much it involves in your life. 66 days is just a good medium time to shoot for. It's the hump that you need to get over. Before we start talking about habits, we'll start talking about how do you help yourself form a habit. Is you need to commit a contract to it. You want to form a new habit, you have to commit to it. It's something that you need to consciously commit to it, both emotionally and physically and financially. Habits are something that will change your life. All these habits will have an impact on everyone here. But the problem is forming them. So if you can commit a contract to yourself, you're going to increase your chances to actually make it successful. So first thing you need is an explicit behavior statement, like what are you going to do? The next thing is you got to make your habits tiny, smaller the better, right? And the next thing is you got to put stakes on. You have to put something on the line. You have to put something so if you mess up, which you probably will, that you'll get dinged. You have to understand that, like, if you don't go up and do this thing that you need to do, you'll be financially accountable. So, the explicit behavior statement. The equation is day at time, in or at places. So basically, the example is every day, after I make breakfast, I will sit at my desk and start working on my to-do list. There's a day, every day, there's a time after breakfast, a place at my desk, and what you're working on is whatever the habit that you want to form. You need to have, so if it's every day, that's great, that's easy to put that in there, but it's also the time and the location. You need to get in a habit of when you, at a certain time, in a certain place, you perform this habit. You want your body to naturally respond to it, and you only can do that with consistency. So by writing out, you're 3 times more likely to success. So it's important that you write these habits out. It's easy to be like, oh, I'll just remember it in my head. No, write it down. It's important. The next book is, this is a great book, Mini Habits, by Stephen Geis. Its quote is, it's easier just to move forward 1 centimeter and let momentum help you out. It's like, the Mini Habits book is about making your habits as small as possible. This is a graph that I made for your motivation level. Your motivation level will go up and down throughout the day. Sometimes you feel like doing it, sometimes you don't, sometimes you're busy, but it fluctuates. If you're going to start like a comedian habit. But if you make your habit so small, so like easy to do, you have no reason to do it. The purpose of making your habit small is so that way there's no reason to fail. There's no reason not to do your habit. Because once you commit to it, you make it small, and it's like, so one example, I'll talk about this later, is 1 extra rep, right? So if you, like, for fitness, basically 1 extra rep is basically, it could be 1 push-up, it could be 1, you stepping outside your front door, it could be 1 sit-up. Whatever it is, it has to be as small as possible, because there should be no reason for it. If you're too tired to do 1 push-up? Are you too tired to put on your shoes? Because that's the only thing you have to do without having a penalty that you already signed up for. So by making your habit small, it's easier to get in the groove of it and continue to do it every single day. So next thing is never miss 2 days in a row. If you miss 1 day, your chance of success only goes down by 5%. Not that bad, right? But if you miss 2 days in a row, your chance go down to 55%. That's a huge decrease. And then after the 3rd day, it goes down to 90%. So it's all about conditioning your body to do it. So if you make a mistake, that's fine. You just have to just make sure the very next day that you go back and you commit to your habit. For stakes, you can choose a friend, a foe, a charity, or an anti-charity. There's 2 websites that does this right now. One's BeMinder and the other one's Stick. The great thing about these websites is you can actually commit to a goal that you want to accomplish. And if you have to check in, BeMinder and Stick both, they have other ways you can do it, where you can do like your Fitbit, how many steps, or you can do, if you check in somewhere, there's lots of different ways to trigger it. But basically, you sign a contract saying that if you fail to commit this, you will be charged X amount of dollars. But the thing is though, it works. You're more like, if you want to succeed in your habit, if you put money on it, if you, imagine like an exercise habit, it has so much benefits to you. Imagine like if, you just have to just pay for that habit. That's what you need to do, is you need to basically invest in, if you want to spend the best money possible, invest in your habits, because they change your life. They always do. And so, but forming them is hard, so go ahead and put money on it. So if I fail to execute this minimum quota for more than 2 weeks, for more than 2 days in a row, I will forfeit blank. Now, if you don't want to do money, which is fine, it just needs to be, what are you going to hurt yourself with? What kind of stick will you have? Because you need to hold yourself accountable. And it's also very helpful to have friends hold you accountable. You're more likely to succeed. Ideally, you want to hold yourself financially responsible and financially responsible, socially responsible and financially. All right, a couple of good habit apps. One is Habit Share. Habit Share is the one that I like. The great thing about Habit Share is that you can actually take someone, you can actually see their habits, which normally most people don't. So if you have a habit, you can get someone to sign up for you, and you can sign up, and you can actually hold them accountable. Most habits apps don't do that, but that's one thing I like about Habit Share. Streaks for iOS, that's nice. It has a nice user interface, and then Habit Bowl. Now both these things, all these 3 habits will have a thing that will have a calendar, and they'll have usually it's a calendar with like each day you can check off, right? Jerry Seinfeld's his habit was to make a joke every day, just write one joke, and his motto was don't break the chain. And you want to try to have so many X's in a row, because it doesn't seem like now, but as soon as you start spending a lot of time on a calendar or making something look pretty, you don't want to miss a day. And you want to be consistent. You want to be, you want to basically check that off to make it look pretty, just so you can complete it. It sounds silly, but we're very human, and that's what we like. So all these 3 habits are already, these 3 apps all have the kind of built-in like calendar. Next thing is form one habit at a time, or if you need to, you can also stack them. But if you take habit formation seriously, forming one new habit, focusing on that for 1 month, and then after that, then you can go on to the next habit. If you take on too much, what happens is you get overwhelmed, you're like, I can't handle this, and you just quit. The purpose of what I'm telling you here is to keep it simple, keep it small, and keep it easy. There's no reason for you to not to do this, since the benefits are obvious, and it's just something that you just want to focus on one at a time. The next thing is the best time to form a habit is in the morning. The reason is because how you wake up can basically set the tone for the rest of your day. Focusing on the first hour when you wake up, you usually have more control of what time you wake up, because you can always start earlier. I'm a big fan of sleep, but if you need time to get this done, then go ahead and set your alarm clock earlier to make this happen. A good book on here is Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And he basically someone who went through a car accident, was paralyzed and had a hard time getting back up, and basically found by taking control of his mornings, he got a lot more productive. But it's the habits in the morning. It's like as soon as you wake up, it's your choice in what you do. You have a choice to go back to bed. You have a choice to get up and go back to sleep. the morning habits are something that you're going to face every time. If you form a habit in the afternoon, sometimes a phone call gets in the way, a lunch, lunch runs long, whatever it is, there's excuses to get it, and they'll stop you. By forming the habits in the morning, you have more control and you'll get into your routine. All right, keystone habits. Keystone habits are basically habits that build a foundation. They may not seem like much, but each habit will fundamentally change the way how you feel and think. If you take someone who has a habit versus not, once you develop a new habit, it will change. You'll have a lot of other benefits. Some of the habits that I'll talk about right now, there's so many benefits. It's just not one. It's multiple. That's why they're called keystone habits. So here's a couple keystone. The first one's exercise. And the reason why we want exercise is not to lose weight. First, let me dispel this myth. Exercising does not make you lose weight. If you exercise, you build muscle. If you have more muscle, you can burn more calories. That's it. If you ever see someone going to the gym, I see them all the time. They'll get new shoes, brand new workout gear. They'll go to the gym for about 2 hours because they got to make up for all the time they haven't, they pushed it off. And you see them for about 2 weeks. It's these people that are going to the gym to lose weight that it never works out. Myself, I have an exercising habit. I cycle, I lift, I do yoga, I do a bunch. I walk. Walking is probably one of the best exercises. If I was to give anyone a recommendation on what exercise to pick up, walk. Walking has a couple benefits. One, it's free. Everyone here is walking, so everyone can do it. You don't need much. Ideally, you need one between 20 and 30 minutes. The health benefits from that is if you could take up the benefits of exercise, put it in a drug, and sell that drug, it'd probably be one of the most profitable drugs you could ever buy. Guess what? It's free. You have to make the habit though. But for the purpose of inventing, it's called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We evolved to move. It's so basically what this does is they took some of this BDNF and they took it on a brain cell, right? And they put it in a dish and they just dropped some on there. And you could see that the dendrites just expand. And what that does is it's basically miracle grow for the brain. We have large brains because, for example, there's the more movement you make, the more brain you need to use. We used to hunt down animals. That means we'd have to basically, we used to long, consistent hunt. Basically, you would run down animals until they dropped dead of, exhaustion. And we would have to be able to think and move at the same time. The exercise, that being able to run at the same time while tracking an animal, it helped grow our brains. And by just physically moving and getting yourself active, will stimulate your brain and actually create new brain growth. If you look at any of the top performing people, one of the top habits that most people do is a form of exercise. So it's a habit that it's really easy to start if you start small. So as I said, my exercise habit is 1 extra rep. That's great if you have a habit, if you have the exercising habit, or if you don't. If you have the exercising habit, like me, 1 extra rep to me means I have to push myself a little harder. So for example, what I do is I sprint. I'll just do a small strip of road that actually will just sprint. And it basically, or if I'm at the gym, I can just do 1 extra rep or just try to lift a little bit more. It helps you to push yourself to be even better. If you don't have the exercising habit, it also works for you. Because one extra rep is just one thing, one push-up, one sit-up. It doesn't matter what it is. You do it for a long enough period, and your body will start to crave exercise. You'll actually want to do it. I'm serious. I'm serious. It's something that you may laugh at, but it's all chemicals, and we're all human. And once you start getting used to that physical exertion every day, it will start to call to you. Just like how a candy will, like a candy jar, you know.
We get addicted to the endorphins.
See what?
Endorphins and stuff.
Yeah, the endorphins. So you can do it too. All right. The next thing is relaxing or meditation. All right. So this one is when I first came across meditation, I was very hesitant. I was like, I don't want to do it. I tried and I resisted for as long as I possibly could. But after I kept on coming back to it and back to it, I eventually tried it. And then now I'm here recommending it to everyone. Meditation is a keystone habit. Now, for the purpose of inventing, it helps with creativity, right? So how many people here, well, you can hear stories like came up with an idea in the bathtub or on the toilet or in the shower, right? It's a common thing. What's going on there is you're actually having a chance to relax. See, when your brain doesn't like to be constantly going. We sleep every night. And we sleep every night not because we want to. It's because our body is basically forcing, it tells us it will eventually kill yourself. So by taking a small time in the day just to relax, it will have just a lot of health benefits. But for as far as creativity goes, I will have some of my best ideas after I meditate. It gives you a chance to basically push everything out of your mind, and you just let it go, go as quiet as possible. And it's never quiet, but it's something that you just have to constantly work on. But by doing that, it basically frees up memory, because you get the working memory that you're still thinking in the background. It's all happening behind you. So after I come back from meditation session, I will look at a problems differently. Normally, sometimes they say that if you never have time to meditate, that only means you have to meditate more. And I say this all the time to myself because usually, I'll be in a project, I'll be working real hard, I'll be having a good time, and the whole day will fly, and I have a great time. But then I'll be but 2 hours will go by, and I realize then I'll go back to it, and the whole thing is mute, the whole thing is wasted because of some problem or some error, that if I would have stopped, I would have realized it a long time ago. But I'm so caught up in the moment to try to get, because I'm getting the flow state, and I just want to get this stuff done. I'm not actually taking the time to saying, should I be doing this? So Tim Ferriss, he has a podcast, he wrote some books. He says that more than 80% of his world-class performing experts that he interviews all meditate. He interviews, CEOs, sports stars, inventors, just a bunch of people. And one thing that he found consistent is they all have some type of mindfulness practice. So this is not just my opinion. This is coming from most people and most research. They all have some type of mindfulness practice. So I recommend, there's 2 different apps that I recommend. One is Calm, the other is Headspace. They both have a free trial that you can do. Try it out for a week, and you'll see the benefits. Yeah. All right. The next thing is keep a journal. For inventive purposes, I know I don't think it works anymore for a patent for patenting purposes, but for inventing purposes, it's really good to write down your ideas because it's easy to get them caught up in your head. But if you write them down, they become physically real. You can go back to your notes and see where you came from.
see if I could add, can't you use that towards a patent argument too? If you've got it documented that you came up with it, you know, at a certain period of time, can't that go in there too?
First to invent, not first to, or first to patent, not first to invent.
I think you agree, it's a fantastic habit to be in though.
Yes.
I know a fellow that, you know, he keeps a journal next to his bed because when he's sleeping is when he comes up with his best ideas. So he's got stacks of journals from over the years where he's jotted down an idea. And he goes back through them, he calls them his pile of gold. Because he can go back through them and something that he wrote 10 years ago that wasn't easy to make. Now you can 3D print it or just make it in a cheaper way. And so now it might be more possible. So, and he just journals and he, you know, he gets most of his ideas when he's sleeping. And he'll wake up and he'll make a note and then go back to bed.
Yep. Journaling is something that you can do for your invention, but even if you can just do it, just to note your day, note your thought process, write your thoughts down. It's an exercise to help you work out your thoughts. Writing has a benefit of just getting your thoughts on paper. And there's just so many benefits to it. So keep a journal. There's a moleskin that you can get. Buy a nice journal because it's part of the commitment device. So if you buy something if you buy a $20 journal, right, versus a $1.99 store one, it's something that you can keep and you're committing to it. It's part of like, you're going to make this part of your life, and so you're going to buy something that's nice so you can write it down. My personal favorite for note keeping, Evernote. Evernote's great. It's really handy. There's web extensions, there's phone apps, there's a bunch of different things. So if you see something, I can take a picture. It will go on my notes. The paid version has OCR, which basically I can take a picture of a piece of paper, and it will take handwriting and actually will be able, you will make it searchable. So I can scan a bunch of documents, type in a phrase, and actually will search and find out what note I am. Well, what note do I have? I prefer tagging notes. My setup I don't want to get into, but one thing that's very handy handling files is basically putting tags. So if each of your daily journal, you can just notate a journal, so you can dump it in a folder. And if you want to look at all your journal stuff, you can click on journals and find it. If you take pictures of drawings, or if you draw, you can put drawings in, or whatever it is. Just use tags, and they'll make it very easy to pull up. And then you can also add multiple tags, so you can give it more context. All right. Next one is feed your curiosity. So one habits that if you look at successful people have, they read, right? I'm not a reader. I'm an audiobook listener. I listen to more audiobooks than you can believe. I love audiobooks myself because I can do it anytime I'm working on something. I'm doing like house chores or mowing the grass, or whatever it is. I can listen to some type of audio. But reading is also a good thing too. So whatever one you prefer. Another good thing is podcasts. There's a lot of good podcasts out there, especially towards inventing. Looking for a podcast, the great thing about podcasts is they're free. And there's a large library to choose from. Audiobooks, or books in general, there's a great resource we all have. It's called a library. No, I'm serious. It's great because it's amazing what you can learn in a library. They have a lot of books, but all the audiobooks for me.
Grand Rapids Public Library also has a full-time business librarian as well.
Yes.
It's a great resource. Steve Assarian, I think is his name. They also have some classes on marketing and things like that as well. But definitely the Grand Rapids Public Library is a great resource.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's a great idea. The public library system. I never thought about it until I got older, and then I started using it. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's all free, and everyone has access to it.